Hey YouTube! Some days your garden tells you what's going on, and today my garden told me we are making raspberry jam. Stop the presses, this is what's happening. I have so many berries. So I'm going to show you my quick, easy raspberry jam that you can make if you have raspberries, sugar, lemon juice, and liquid pectin. You can do hot water bath and make the best raspberry jam you've ever tasted. Let's check it out. What we're going to be starting with is 6.5 cups of organic sugar. If you're on a low sugar diet, change the channel. This isn't that recipe. I don't know about substitutions and whatnot. I know there are things you can do, but I've never tried them. Lemon juice. We've got liquid pectin. Make sure it's not expired, which this is. And I've got my raspberries over here. I'll show you. So many raspberries. So I'm going to get 4 cups of crushed raspberries out of this, but I'm going to push them through about 3/4 of that. I'm going to put through a sieve so we don't end up with a very seedy jam. And we're going to be doing 1/2 pint jars. We've got our reusable rings and our non-reusable caps that will be the sealing part of the jar situation. We've got a pot to get everything going in, and a hot water bath heating up here, which is going to be all you'll need to process these jars and make jams. And to get ahead of some of the questions I know I'm going to get asked, I will go through these and sort out the ones that I want to use that look the best. And if they are any kind of little bits of dirt or little, pollen or pieces of leaves or whatnot, I will lightly, very, very lightly rinse these. But they're so delicate because they're warm and fresh from being out in the garden. I don't want to crush them too much, and I don't want to get them soggy. So very light rinse if necessary, and then we're going to get them in this, and I'm going to squash them with a potato masher, and then we're going to put them through a food mill and see if we can remove some of those seeds for the final product. And I only need 4.5 cups of crushed raspberries. It didn't even put a dent in what I have here, and I have a whole nother tray outside that I need to bring in still. So a lot of these are either going to go in the freezer or the freeze dryer for snacking on and making smoothies later this year. The food mill let a little bit of the seeds through, so I did 3/4 of it through the food mill, and then about 1/4 of it is going in this way. So we are just going to add the raspberry pulp, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of unsalted butter, and 6.5 cups of organic sugar. So, if you've never made jam, it's mostly sugar. If you think you're making a healthy snack for your family, probably not. It's a lot of sugar. And we're just going to combine all of that over medium-low heat, and you want to stir this constantly until the sugar is entirely dissolved. And it tastes so good. Oh my goodness, it just tastes like fresh, just the burst of flavor of raspberry. Strawberry jam too. These are so good and easy to make. So once the sugar has dissolved, we've still got the butter to melt a little bit more, but we're going to keep stirring, and I've just turned the heat up to a medium-high, and I'm going to continue to stir this and bring it up to a full rolling boil, stirring constantly. And if you're not sure what a full rolling boil looks like, and when you see it start to go at the edges like that, that is the beginning of a full rolling boil. So we're going to get this to a full rolling boil like that, where you can see it all the way around the edges doing this, sort of looks like it's rolling. And we're going to take the pectin, 1 package of pectin, and we're putting it in like this, and we are going to say a small prayer and hope that expired pectin will still make jam. I hope so. We're going to stir it to dissolve it into the jam mixture, and then we're going to boil and stir it like this, hard at a rolling boil, for 1 more minute. After exactly 1 minute of boiling and stirring, we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat, and I'm going to take this actually off the burner and just set it over there off the heat, and we're going to let that rest for 5 minutes before we put it in the jars. And I'm going to come back about once a minute during that 5-minute period, and I'm just going to stir it and move it around. This is supposed to help it to keep from separating in the jars. So this has been 5 minutes with a stir about every minute, and I'm going to go ahead and use my canning funnel And these are 1/2 pint jars, and we're just going to fill them to 1/4 inch headspace. So you're going to be 1/4 inch down from the top. So you just ladle it in. It's very hot, so be careful. And if you aren't sure what 1/4 inch is, I literally will get a measuring tape out and measure, because I am not good at eyeballing. That is not 1/4 inch, so I'm going to top these up here in a little bit. We'll see how many jars we get. This recipe said it should make 7 1/2 pints, and I usually end up with slightly more than what the recipe says. So if it's 7, I'll usually get 8. So I got 8 jars out. Let's see if I was right. And I'll put a link in the description to my favorite canning book for everything. Favorite book of all time. It's not a new book. I don't know how in print it still is. It may be on Amazon. If it is, I'll link it down below, or I'll just put, I'll put who it is. I think her name is Linda Ament, but it's an unusual spelling. And I like to just use a little towel right here just to keep any drips kind of to a minimum, and then I can just throw the towel in the wash when we're done. Makes it a little bit easier for cleanup. Looks like it's going to be just right at 7 1/2 pints. But what's kind of fun is if I don't have a full, like a full the last jar is not enough to make a full jar, I'll just put it in a little container and put it in the refrigerator, and that can be our little tester, especially for jams and things, because I'm not usually going to open these right away to use them, but it's kind of fun to have a little test. So if I have something like this where I don't maybe have a full jar's worth, I'll put it in a little bowl and just stick it in the fridge. But this looks like we might be really close to my 8 1/2 pints that I thought I would get. So once we have these filled, and I didn't measure these, but they're all close to even. I think we're a little lower than 1/4 inch, but I'm going to carefully grab each jar because they're really hot. But you know what, they're too hot to pick up, so we're going to just do them sitting. But I just take a wet paper towel and go around the edge, because you don't want anything on the rim of this where that cap is going to seal, because any food particles that are there are going to cause, see what I'm getting off there? That's going to cause those lids to not seal up. So you just you can take a damp washcloth, but I like to use a paper towel, and you can just throw it away when you're done, especially seeds, because raspberries, hello, like that. What we're going to do next is we're just going to put a cap on each jar. And the hot water bath for these does not need to be boiling. It only needs to be 200-degree water. So if you have a thermometer to put in your hot water bath, throw that in there and just get it up to 200. So you don't need to hard boil these, they don't need to be at a hard boil. The other thing you're going to do with the lid, the screw-on lid, you just do it to finger tight and then give it a little push past that. These are not going to seal because you screwed them on so tight. It's not about the tightness, it's about the pressure in the jar. So just enough to hold that lid on in the water. So you just go down to where it's just finger tight. Those are so hot, and give it a little extra push past finger tight, but not much. So we have 8 beautiful jars. So it doesn't take much for, like, if you're picking raspberries, and you can see how many berries I picked versus how many jars we got. And I wouldn't recommend tripling or doubling this recipe all at once. So if you want to make more than one batch, somebody chime in the comments if you've ever done that. I always make a single batch and process it singly, because I don't know about multiplying with pectin and all that. I'd rather just do single batches. But that amount of berries I just picked would have made so much jam. Oh my goodness. We are going to take the jar lifter, and you just carry these over to your water, and they just go right down in the water. And we want that water level, once all the jars are in, you want that water level to be at least 2 inches above the lids, so they process right. So what I'll do is put them all in, and then we'll check the water level, and if we need to, we'll add some more water. We might need to add some more water, but I think I'm pretty good at guessing, so we'll see. And then I always make records. I make notes. If you've watched my garden videos, make notes about everything. So I make notes, when did I pick raspberries, and how many jars of jam did I make, and how many quarts did I freeze. I am going to add some water to that. So we're going to top that up with some water, so the water level is about up to here. And then these are going to go for at 200 degrees for 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, we just turn off the heat, and I'm going to let these sit in the water for 5 minutes. And this is where your jar lifter comes in handy. You want to bring them straight up out of the water. And I'm just going to take them. Look how nice and pretty that looks. Oh my goodness. We're going to take them right to this towel to dry and cool. And you hear it pop. You want to hear that sound of that lid popping down. It tells you that they've sealed. You can hear them sealing. That's the best sound. If you can, that is the most satisfying sound. It's that lid popping down as the air releases out of it, and it seals the lid, and that's what keeps them safe in the cabinet. Oh, I love it. There you go. 8 gorgeous jars of raspberry jam to enjoy. It just tastes like a burst of summer in the winter on your toast or English muffins. These are so good, so easy to make, and they make a great Christmas gift as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.